Pilots, have this history from World War I on of, the Knights of the Air, and they paint their airplanes, and they have fancy helmets. But by the time the Vietnam War started, the Navy had said, no personalizing the airplanes. The only exception was an aircraft named Lady Jessie.
The way that it came about that there was an aircraft that had nose art on it was because of two very special people, and that was Lieutenant Commander Dick Perry and Lady Jessie, who was Jessie Beck.
Cruising along the desert interstate, I almost passed it by. The town was some distance away towards the middle of the valley. Wind, as always in the desert, was constant. There was a park with a sandlot baseball diamond and a small memorial monument with a bronze plaque. I had come to view it. Dick Perry was one of those few very special people who stay in the most vivid part of your memory for a lifetime. He was full of an uncommonly huge bunch of love for just about everything. Family, friends, flying, you name it. What Dick touched he loved with a passion found in but a very few.
He was a superb pilot. He was a really excellent naval officer, and he was just a good guy. He was a good man.
Not just a good leader and a courageous combat pilot, but a man of integrity, old school Navy.
He was one of those people who was enthused, happy.
Dick became the spirit of the Ghostriders in those years. Oh yes, he was the finest of naval officers. He was unquestionably destined to be an admiral, maybe even chief of naval operations, possibly more. He knew what to do when things were not going well.
He had been on a twilight mission, been hit by anti-aircraft fire. It blew the nose off the airplane where all the electronic equipment was stored, and it was getting dark. He had to dead reckon back out to the carrier. The only thing he had was a flashlight and just a Boy Scout compass. And he managed to get this very sick airplane on a carrier at night. Just a spectacular piece of airmanship.
We lost half of our pilots that cruise, many in a fire aboard our carrier, Oriskany.
So a group of us were in the ready room. Smoke was starting to come in under the door, and Dick said, I think we better think about getting out of here. It's going to be thick out there. Everybody get in a line and grab the belt of the guy ahead of you. I'll lead you out. I know a way. And so away we went.
You have to understand that when the lights go out on the aircraft carrier, there is just no light. There's no ambient light anywhere. And it's filled with smoke. But he got them out.
He was a natural leader. He understood how to make people do what they should be doing and need to do. Jessie Beck had come to Reno in 1938 as a young divorcee, brought her little boy along, because she had been promised a job by Pappy Smith. His son had a little tiny gambling outfit called Harold's. Jessie had risen in the casino, and in 1950 she fell in love with and married Fred Beck, who owned the Keno Pan horse race betting concessions. As the casino grew, so did their business. Then he died in 1954, about the time Dick Perry was in college.
He got a job at Harold's Club while he was in college. He and Jessie met and they hit it off. It was a kind of a work mother, work son kind of relationship. When he got out of school and he went into the Navy, their friendship endured.
So she put together care packages to send to Dick and his friends But Jessie Beck did everything in a large way.
It was, hey, there's a package from Jessie in the ready room.
There was all these boxes, and take anything you want.
Cards, cookies,
Poker chips, popcorn.
anything that could be shipped.
It seems like such a little thing, you know, to say that there's care packages coming in and they got decks of cards and cookies. But at that time, although the war wasn't that unpopular yet, still it wasn't like in World War II where the whole country was mobilized. So we were pretty much out there on our own. And to get anything that recognized you as doing something, you know, for the country, or that people were thinking about you was big.
Dick wrote back and said, you're sending too much. I gave some of it to the other squadron, VA 163, the other A4 squadron. And she took them under her wing and started sending even more stuff.
May I help you?
So she got, I think it was the telephone operators across the state of Nevada to get donated paperback books.
Thank you, just a moment.
And they put them in these huge cartons. I mean, we had books coming out of our ears, so we scattered them all over the ship. And when the next box arrived, we started scattering them to other ships. And Paul Engel was the commanding officer of 164. And because of the things that Jessie Beck had done, Dick asked, and Paul Engel thought it was appropriate to paint Lady Jessie, name Dick's aircraft in honor of Jessie Beck.
Her philanthropy just grew and grew. She expanded from our 2 squadrons to Army units, Air Force units.
Jessie Beck, I met her in '67 when I just joined the squadron, and she was hosting a party in Reno, all expenses paid for the pilots and their wives.
We had this fire, and that was a terrible event aboard Oriskany. When we got back, she invited all the officers in VA 164, our squadron, VA 163, the Saints, to Reno. She put us, our wives, girlfriends up. She took us to dinners, and we went to shows.
She was so gracious and so supportive. You just had to love her. There was nothing else to be done but love Jessie.
July 10th, 1967. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Mullane, tomorrow we leave QB Point in the Philippines and head for Yankee Station in combat. Friday we will fly our first combat hop, and I want you to know that it is with pleasure that I go into battle flying with your son Mike as my wingman.
I thought, I have lucked out. My Irish luck is holding, you know. I am flying on Dick Perry's wing.
This is my second combat cruise, and I assure you that the uppermost thought in my mind is to bring Mike home safely to his family.
I grew up around naval aviators my entire life, and so he fit the mold of what you wanted to be when you became a real grown-up.
Men like Dick Perry, Doug Mao, Denny Weekman, and then Bill Spann on the second cruise. They had, you know, such courage and integrity and valor. Thank God they were there to lead us into this, because it was pretty bad, starting in July of '67.
I was shot down the 5th day of the cruise, and I was the 7th pilot to be lost or shot down.
At that time, the Rolling Thunder operation, which was the air war over North Vietnam, just started cranking up to full steam, and we were flying 3 Alpha strikes a day.
Dick was our division lead, a strike into Haiphong. To this day, that millisecond, the unseen missile appearing under his plane and exploding, is frozen in my consciousness.
Somebody said magic stones break, which meant move, get a maximum evasion. Right at that point, I saw Dick's airplane in almost a 90-degree bank, pulling very hard away from me. I remember looking over my canopy rail, and I could see Dick's airplane, you know, just separating from me. And then there was one big whoomph.
The explosion buffeted us. When we recovered, Dick was already turning for the Tonkin. He was talking calmly.
John said, I'm with them, we're going out. You go on. So I went into the target.
As we reached the coastline, he became silent. His plane caught fire and rolled out of control. But just as it rolled through wings level, Dick ejected. Fine, he's in a good chute. The helo is on the way, I reported over the air.
His feet wet, he's over the water. We have a good chute. If you were over the water and you had a good chute, we were going to get you. Your chances were 90% that you were going to be recovered. So I thought, okay, and I go back to the strike frequency.
Soon my wingman George alerted me, though. He should be talking to us from the chute by now, John. I took a slow flyby. Dick was lifeless in his parachute. The rescue swimmer went down and confirmed him as a KIA. Then shore batteries opened fire. Too risky to continue, we had to leave Dick to the sea.
We hit the target, exit, go back to the carrier. Here's the skipper, Doug Mao. And he walked up to me and he says, Mike, Dick didn't make it. It was a complete surprise because I was just sure he was alive.
Air Wing 16 had the highest loss rate of any Navy air wing in the war. We came right into flying the big missions right off the bat, every day.
Not only did I care for this man and have this tremendous bond with him, but if he could get shot down, anybody could get shot down, including me. It was shortly after that that I calculated when my life expectancy would expire, and I said, you're not going to survive this. Your replacement is not going to survive this.
It's strange as it sounds. Once you accepted that, it was like all the worry was gone, and yeah, we're not going to make it out, but okay, I accept it. I mean, it was to that point.
How good you were as a man or an officer or a pilot just didn't matter. It was just sheer dumb luck. Dick's airplane was Lady Jessie. The skipper always flies 401. After Dick was killed, we put Lady Jessie's name on his aircraft.
I don't know exactly who came up with the idea, but all of a sudden Lady Jessie was painted on our #1 airplane, 401. Jessie became such a mother to us all. It was just the right thing to do. And it became a tradition in the squadron until the squadron was finally decommissioned.
As the war ground on, the popular support eroded and then turned into active opposition. But Jessie Beck never changed.
As crushed as she was, they were very close. But she just carried on, and I can remember thinking, well, if she can be this strong, we can do it. She did more and more. She was doing things with the Army and the Air Force. She was a phenomenal woman.
One of the Army units recommended her for the Medal of Freedom. Now that's the highest civilian medal that can be given. After Dick was shot down, she continued to support our squadron. And each skipper, they knew that story, and they were getting that kind of support by Jessie Beck, so the name got bigger. It became a really famous airplane, the most famous A4.
The A4 Skyhawk was, pound for pound, the most effective and versatile attack aircraft that was ever produced. Skyhawks were the primary attack aircraft for much of the Vietnam War for the Navy. Without a doubt, the most famous A4 was Lady Jessie.
In my mind, it's appropriate that the fame of the aircraft reflects the celebration of Jessie Beck and the memory of Dick Perry.
We buried Dick in the spring of 1987. Surprisingly, his remains were returned. Standing beside his grave in Arlington, hearing the strains of America the Beautiful, and remembering my stopping by, it seemed to me that so many of America's very uncommon heroes and leaders have sprung unashamedly from the good and common people spread across its heartland. Dick Perry was an uncommonly great human being. The heights to which he and thousands other youth from our heartland might have risen, we shall not know. All we can know now is that not knowing is the greatest tragedy of war.